Talk about, because you've accomplished so much and been such a voice, but Beneath the Veil, and that you made, that's a landmark project that you did. And Meryl Streep and so many women, so many people supported that have a voice. Can you talk about that and Meryl and her getting behind the show and what that meant to you and what that meant for everyone?
Beneath the Veil the whole journey started in 2005, and this is the time that I was doing many projects, again, regarding women. And you can't really make a picture like that, or films that is regarding certain gender, because where are you going to market it? Where are you going to sell it? How are you going to manage it? So you have to always do it with a smaller budget. And theater is a wonderful venue in order to voice this, as it's always been. So Beneath the Veil started in Los Angeles, became Critics' Choice. At that time, there was a whole operation in downtown Los Angeles. And then I decided I'm going to take it higher. I'm going to take it so the voice would be heard. And Washington, D.C., Kennedy Center was what I was aiming at. So we started from there. It was very successful. And I reached out to every single organization of women in DC. And I asked them to help us to promote this, since the cost of advertising was so high that I had to somehow bring them in. And also one thing I did, just the play itself is just one and a half hours. And so I asked the head of the organizations if they want to speak about their organization and their fight, no matter where that was. Either it was in Africa, United States, or wherever, they have 1.5, 2 minutes to talk about their organization. So that's how we got on their website. That's how we started the journey, and we brought a lot of good people to the theater to see. The Queen of Iran was in DC, Washington, DC, Farah Pahlavi. She's a wonderful friend, and she came to see it twice. And she said she never sees a play twice, but the voice was really loud. How it started was this play, the idea was a girlfriend of mine when I had my first child, and actually, 2 months old, my son. I was actually breastfeeding. I got a call from Tehran in 1989. From a girlfriend of mine, and she said her daughter, in which I helped her choose the name. Since I was in a music school at the time, I chose Melody. And so I adored this daughter. I was like another mom to her. When I left, she was only 4 years old. Said she committed suicide. And now I'm holding my baby and I'm hearing this news of Melody. I left Iran, she was only 4 years old. And then I said, what happened? That cannot be. She was only 16 years old. And she told me that she repeatedly listened to Michael Jackson's music in school. And she got warned that she cannot listen to this type of music a few times. And what happened at the end, and she would give it to her friends those days to listen to this music. So the principal of the school at the morning prayer brought her in, and she kneeled down per his order and cut her hair. She had beautiful long hair. So she couldn't stand it as a young girl. She went to the 4th floor of school and she threw herself down. So that affected me in a way that I couldn't even process it. That how could this be for a girl I know? So that stayed with me for many, many years, and knowing this child. And then eventually, when I wanted to write this play, I knew that Melody is going to be my center figure. At the same time, Zara Kazemi went from a reporter from Iran, from Canada. She was an Iranian citizen in Canada. She went to take some pictures from Evin prison, which is their main prison, and she was detained, and 2 weeks later she was killed. So I'm listening and hearing all these stories, and of course, at that time, prior Instagram and all that, it was not so powerful, or not even created for that matter, because I remember that when my son was born, my first son was born, I didn't even have a flip-flop on. It was
just
I can't remember.
All that just came in the last decade.
Yeah, 2 decades and all that. So when I approached this subject, I wanted to make sure that a lot of stories are there. And Zara Kazemi's story, that she wants to travel to Iran she's a reporter, she wants to investigate more. And it started the play by writing a letter to her son that I'm going, forgive me, but I have to go and find out for myself as a reporter. So it starts from there, and the whole play was from the point of view of like an American woman who was a writer and a reporter and broadcaster, that she is writing a story about women in the Middle East. And she's having a hard time because of the stories she hears. She is devastated and she doesn't want to write it. So she gets into a position that she has to write the story and deliver it the next morning. The editor of that magazine is really pushing her, and she falls asleep, and all these characters from the books come alive. And each of them have a story to tell. One is the prostitution in Iran. One is an Arab woman that has everything in the world but doesn't have a soul. Her husband has few women, and many women that he's married to. One is Zara Kazemi's story and her journey through prison and what they do to her till she.
All these characters. So
all these characters, and I researched all these stories, and out of like 100 stories, it was 10 stories that I wanted to say. There were more, but it wouldn't fit in this compact. To a point that when the play was over, a lot of people were asking me backstage, "Why did it finish? We want to hear more, and we don't believe this happened." Also, because of my music background and my ballet background, I actually choreographed the stoning to death of a woman with ballet.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So that was with lighting and all
yes,
that. Yeah, so it was very powerful. The play was, musicians were sitting there with the compositions that I've made, so they will come and support 2 musicians with 30 instruments.
Have you thought of reviving it or revisiting? Now would be a good time.
Perfect time. And I actually filmed it. The last performance we had, it was in Alex Theater in Glendale. And so I filmed it with 6 cameras. And now I'm beginning to edit it so I can just put it online for people to see. Because the play itself is very hard. I have like about 15 people on stage, and to travel with that and to create it and all that. But maybe I do that. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yes, yeah. Have you ever considered having it as a one-person show, like without but just you doing all the parts?
I can do that, and I thought originally to do it that way, but I wanted a lot of actors and the power of. And the interesting part is that I have one actor playing 10 different parts.
Well, that's almost the same thing.
Yeah, it was wonderful because he was a torturer, he was a good man, he was a bad man, he was a comedian, whatever it was in the scene, that it was supporting it with these women. And the wonderful actors were with me on that journey. Anthony Azizi was brilliant in his roles that he played. He's an amazing actor, and I'm so honored that he was with us. And Diane Baker, she was at the Kennedy Center with us. She was the reporter.
So that's the production that Meryl saw?
No, she was at the Lincoln Center, and we had a very nice conversation. And I said, I actually at that time, in a short brief conversation, I said that I want to make a movie out of this at that time. And I said, I would love for you to play the reporter because it's the leading role. And then in a funny way, she tells me, no, you play the role. You've already played two. I said, no, we need you. I don't have that power. I need your power. And she is a part of different organizations for women's rights.
Yes, she is.
And so actually the way I met her, it was via one of the organizations that she was a part of. And I reached out to them and they said, oh, by the way, do you know Marilyn's on our board? I said, you're kidding me. Definitely we want her.
For Heroes for Change to be a voice. So.
Yes, definitely.
And she should produce, if you make a film out of it, she should executive produce. I'm just putting that out there.
Exactly. I have to reach out again on that subject. I've been so busy with the cat this past year promoting it.
We need to keep getting it out there. It's like, it needs to be seen by everyone.
And hopefully twice. Because the first time you see, you have knowledge of the worldly matters and all that, but second time you pay more attention to each sketch. Like when they're throwing those instruments in fire. I mean, there's so much in there, all the factory for the trafficking and soldiers and educated people were being sent to war, or child labor making all those, weaving the carpets, and it goes on and on and on and on. So there's a lot that is being said, but it's like fast. It goes really fast. So I recommend anyone who wants to see it twice.
Or more than that. Now, the animators that you mentioned, and they did it all in a year. Were they around the world? Were they?
Yes, they were
Okay.
European animators that I
And any of
connected
them
with.
based out here?
No, majority in Europe, and I'm glad that I met them. And even the type of the animation is like hand sketched and all that, which is.